Let's kick things off with tonight's big number, 73%. That is by how much the DOH COVID response fund for 2022 was reduced from an initial proposal of 74 billion pesos. That has been trimmed by the Budget Department to 19 billion pesos.
That move might mean another year of scrambling for funds to fund allowances for healthcare workers. Included in the removed funding were appropriations of as much as 50.4 billion pesos for the allowances of medical frontliners. This comes at a time when scores of health workers press the government for benefits. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. As thousands of health workers continue to press government for unreleased funds, Health Secretary Francisco Duque bears that next year's budget will not have any allocation to fund their benefits.
This means they have to bank on the passage of a yet uncertain Bayanihan 3, which, according to one lawmaker, won't even have itemized appropriations. Marian Enriquez with The Big Story.
The Health Department initially proposed a budget of 74 billion pesos for COVID-19 response in 2022. But the Budget Department reduced it to just over 19 billion pesos, affecting the allowances of healthcare workers. This was revealed by Health Secretary Francisco Duque III during the agency's budget hearing at the House of Representatives.
Can you confirm that po? Walang SRA budget sa NEP 2022. Ang sinasabi ninyong dahilan ay dahil hindi po inapprove ng DBM.
Tama po kayo, next year, wala po.
Duque says that some 50 billion pesos was initially allocated for the benefits of healthcare workers. The proposed budget also includes funds to support hospitals as well as allocations for the hiring of vaccinators and surveillance officers. This also includes the acquisition of oxygen needs and other expenses. But according to Duque, the DBM might have thought that the situation will improve.
We were hoping that once we reach the herd immunity and vaccinate at least about 77 million of our people, baka naman po ang sitwasyon ay talagang sadyang mas maging maayos.
But the World Health Organization itself said the pandemic might last for 2 more years. With a 73% reduction in budget, Duque said they're banking on the passage of a Bayanihan 3 to fund benefits for medical frontliners. But Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo finds this problematic.
At ang inaasahan po ninyo ay Bayanihan 3, which unfortunately is just a bill. At this moment, hindi pa siya batas. And just in case po maging batas po siya, wala pong itemized appropriation para sa SRA doon.
Kimbo then asked Duque if there are least priority programs where they can realign the budget.
We're looking at the butika ng barangay, but that is not substantial. It's less than, I think about less than 3 or 400 million, but it will help.
The budget cut did not sit well with the Filipino Nurses United, saying it will lead to more demoralized personnel.
Dapat ang focus ng pamahalaan ay ang kalusugan at ang welfare ng mga health workers. Dahil ang pandemya na to ay tuloy-tuloy.
Duque says they are eyeing the submission of amendments to fund other items cut from the proposed budget. Lawmakers meanwhile sought for Duque's commitment not to transfer any funds to the procurement service of the DBM. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, BR1 News.
Now, to further discuss, we have with us Mary Ann de la Vega, Director of the Budget Department's Budget and Management Bureau. Ma'am, welcome po to The Big Story.
Yes, good evening.
Ma'am,
Thank you for having us.
Maybe you could clarify and expound back po nabawasan yung budget? And tama po ba yung pagkakarinig namin from Health Secretary Duque that this was basically based on a miscalculation, on a wrong assumption that things will get better by this time or by next year?
Oh, first of all, thank you for giving us this chance to clarify certain concerns. But may I share with you the data that we have on record? For fiscal year 2022 budget, the DOH actually officially submitted a total proposal of 310 billion, out of which we were able to recommend to the President to submit to Congress a budget for DOH of more or less 253 billion. That's around 207 billion in the agency-specific budget of DOH, as well as the 45 billion in the unprogrammed appropriation for the vaccines. So that will actually give us a reduction of 19% and not 73% as alleged. Yes. So ganun siya. I think the one that they're referring to is yung specific for the
Allowances.
health workers. Yes, I think that's the one. But it's not included in the proposal for 2022, but it is included in the Bayanihan 3 bill.
But this is precisely what Congresswoman Stella Kimbo was pointing out. There's a lot of things we cannot control with the Bayanihan 3. One is that it is precisely still a bill. And secondly, as Congresswoman Kimbo pointed out, even if it passes, hindi itemized. So wala pa rin tayong control and there are still no assurances that the allowances for healthcare workers will be covered. And as you know, that's one of our biggest problems right now.
Yes, you're precisely right. And it is also actually our setback and our constraint because during the formulation of the 2022 budget, we don't have a law to rely on. So, kumbaga, we don't have any legal basis to put it in the 2022 budget. So, we are actually relying on the passing of the Bayanihan 3 so that we can put in the requirement for whatever benefits that they will be identifying in the bill.
Okay, pero balikan ko lang po. I mean, tama po ba yung sinabi ni Health Secretary Duque that as far as the allowances, okay, we're not talking about the overall proposal for the budget anymore, but at least as far as the allowances is concerned, it was slashed and ipinagpaliban na for any emergency legislation, say, like the Bayanihan 3, but it was proceeding on the assumption that things will be better anyway.
Yeah, if we're going to call out the proposal that the DOH actually submitted, the one that they have included in the 2022 budget, it's the one for the HRH, that's the health for human resource for health, and we were able to put in there a total of 17 billion for that. That's to cover the 26,035 HRH. And then also included in the 2022 budget, it's not actually zero because we were able to put in an amount of 3.8 billion to cover their proposal of almost 7,000 additional HRH. So emergency HRH, they call it emergency HRH. It used to be actually in 2020 and this 2021, it's supposedly, it runs to about 18,000 HRH health workers, but their submission to us was around 7,000. So we were able to put in that proposal in the 2022 budget. That's just their proposal.
Okay,
for the 2020. So yeah,
those
are
a big
the only
reduction
items.
in the premise there, di ba? From 18,000 and then a presumption that it will be 7,000.
Yes, because I think that's the one that Secretary Duque was referring to when he said that they did a miscalculation because the assumption then was next year it will get better.
Okay.
Hence, their proposal to us was to cut the existing that we have now for the one we had for 2020 and 2021, and that is around 18,000 emergency HRH.
Okay, maraming salamat po. DBM Budget and Management Bureau Director Mary Ann de la Vega. If and when things do get better will depend on vaccine rollout. According to Secretary Duque, herd immunity might be achieved by February 2022. Duque says 77 million Filipinos, or 70% of the population, should be fully vaccinated by that time if at least 500,000 doses are administered every day. He also cited the Finance Department's report that some 195 million doses will arrive within the year. To date, about 14 million Filipinos, or 12% of the population, have received 2 doses each.
Once we reach the herd immunity and vaccinate at least about 77 million of our people, baka naman po ang sitwasyon ay talagang sadyang mas maging maayos. The situation has improved in the sense that the global supply chain has pretty much stabilized.
These are the other big stories tonight. The OCTA Research Group is calling for a 2-week extension of modified ECQ in the metro to give hospitals time to expand capacity. More politicians have expressed interest to be Mayor Sara Duterte's running mate in the 2022 polls, including PDP Laban's top bet, Senator Bongo. And things are looking up for pole vaulter EJ Obiena because he is now world number 5 after a breakthrough performance in Paris. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Senators are seeking a whole departure order against former Budget Undersecretary Lloyd Christopher Lau after tips that he might be looking to flee.
Lau is at the center of a Senate investigation on overpriced pandemic supplies. Pamela Vasquez gives us a front seat to the story.
The Senate will issue a whole departure order against former Budget Undersecretary Lloyd Christopher Lau. That's according to Senator Richard Gordon. He called up Senate President Tito Soto at 2:30 in the morning to request this urgently. They had been tipped off that Lau had secured a visa and was preparing to flee.
May whole departure order, at least may lookout order sa kanya in any of the airports kung lalabas siya. Dahil malaking bilyon ng mga bilyon ng papaliwanag niya.
Lau was the head of the procurement service of the Department of Budget last year. He signed off on the purchase of millions of face masks and shields that the Commission on Audit said were overpriced. Under his watch, face masks were 27 pesos per piece, while face shields cost 120 pesos.
Pinapaaral po kung sino pa ibang bansa na gumagamit ng face shield. Halos wala eh. Ginawa nila na kailangan mag-face shield para kumita pa lalo.
More than 8 billion pesos in contracts were awarded to Pharmally Pharmaceutical, a newly set up company with ties to Michael Yang, President Duterte's former economic advisor. In a recent briefing, Senator Risa Hontiveros presented documents that showed that 3 people connected to Pharmally were wanted in Taiwan for embezzlement and other financial crimes.
Perhaps it's not just about PPEs, the testing. Nagtatanong na rin mga tao, ito bang maling paggamit ng pera natin ay nasa likod din ng supply problems natin sa vaccines.
Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez has also admitted that in the early days of the pandemic, they reached out to the Chinese embassy for help procuring the supplies. The PPEs had to be picked up from China using 2 C-130 planes and even a Philippine Navy ship. Hontiveros bemoaned the lost opportunity for local manufacturers. The Senate will continue its investigation next week and has summoned Lau once again, along with 2 other Davao executives, Undersecretary Anderson Law of the Presidential Management Staff and overall Deputy Ombudsman Warren Leong. I'm Pamela Vasquez and we are One News.
While the Senate has been busy on that front, two senators found time to pitch themselves as potential vice president to Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. The presidential daughter has lured in a handful of running mate aspirants as election season draws near. Mayor Los Baños has this report.
Not just one, but two senators have expressed intention to be Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte's potential running mate in 2022. They are Senator Bongo and Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Both senators are vying for the vice presidential post.
When I learned that there were some aspirants who wish to be Mayor Sara's VP in case she runs for the presidency, I expressed my willingness to be considered in her list of choices. Nagpalista lang din po ako gaya ng iba.
Senator Go's possible bid for vice president runs counter to initial plans made by PDP Laban under the Group of Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi. The group previously endorsed the Go Duterte tandem with President Duterte as VP for next year's polls. PDP Laban Secretary General Attorney Melvin Matibag refused to comment on the development, saying he was not privy to any discussions. Senator Gatchalian, on the other hand, is banking on his track record in pitching himself as Mayor Sara's VP. Former Defense Secretary Gibo Chodoro also offered to be Mayor Sara's running mate. He visited Davao twice and even participated in the city's COVID-19 vaccine campaign. Mayor Sara says certain groups have expressed interest to form a tandem, although she has yet to confirm if these are true. This includes Majority Floor Leader Martin Romualdez. Mayor Sara also denied her father's claim that Senator Amy Marcos also wants to be her running mate. The presidential daughter says Senator Marcos only went to Davao to greet her on her birthday. Political alliances are starting to brew ahead of the filing of certificate of candidacies in October. Eyes are locked closely over the Dutertes on whether they will indeed run for an extended term in Malacanang. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
And here are other election-related headlines we are keeping our eyes on. The COMELEC says PDP Laban factions must settle their risk before September 30 or the poll body will be forced to step in. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez says the filing of signatories will begin on the last day of the month, so PDP Laban will have to resolve the dispute and come up with a single official list of officers by then. Meanwhile, Senate President Tito Soto revealed to One News Agenda that Senator Manny Pacquiao wants to meet with him and Senator Ping Lacson after the boxer's quarantine. Senate President said he wants Pacquiao to run as senator under their slate, promising that the Soto-Lacson tandem will enhance Pacquiao's advocacies. And former Senator Bongbong Marcos is expressing openness to run for president in next year's elections. The former vice presidential candidate also confirmed that he is in talks with both factions of PDP Laban. On the side of the opposition, Liberal Party President and Senator Kiko Pangilinan claims the clamor for Vice President Leni Robredo to run for president is growing and growing stronger. But for now, Pangilinan is urging supporters to give Robredo some space and time to reflect before revealing her plans for 2022.
For the big story in sports, the Philippines campaign in the Tokyo Paralympics hit another snag after a third para athlete tested positive for COVID-19. Para Taekwondo Jin, Elaine Ganapin tested positive for the virus and will not be able to compete in the men's K44 75 kilogram division tomorrow. Ganapin is our third athlete to test positive after powerlifter Ashel Guion and discus thrower Janet Aceveda. Team Philippines is now reduced to just two athletes, wheelchair racer Gerald Mangliwan and para-swimmer Gary Behino. Both will compete in their final events tomorrow. Meanwhile, after a record-breaking performance in Paris last weekend, Filipino pole vaulter EJ Obiena has risen to number 5 in the discipline's world rankings. Obiena is now the 5th-ranked pole vaulter in the world, just behind Olympic champion and world record holder Armand Duplantis of Sweden, Americans Christopher Nilsson and Sam Kendricks, and Frenchman Renaud Lavillenie. Obiena will look to continue his impressive performance as he competes in the Alliance Memorial Van Damme in Brussels, Belgium tomorrow, and the final Diamond League edition in Zurich, Switzerland next week. Some exciting news for the whole family. Yes, Signal brings you 11 more awesome channels with free viewing starting this September until October 15. More blockbuster movies on Tap Movies, Tap Action Flicks, and Tagalized Movie Channel. More entertaining and trendy shows on Lotus Macau and Tap TV. More heart-pounding sports action on Premier Sports and the Varsity Channel. And more fun learning for your kids at home on Moonbug Kids and DreamWorks. For more details, visit Signal's website or Facebook page. Time for another quick break. When we return, with cases expected to rise further, especially in Metro Manila, the OCTA Research Group sees fit an extension of the modified ECQ. And the long lines to get vaccinated can get daunting, but some sites make it more bearable by showing movies, not unless the film is about a virus which turned people into zombies. More on that story after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. OCTA Research is calling for an extension of the MECQ in the capital amid the rapid increase in Delta variant cases.
The health department warns that Delta variant infections are multiplying faster due to household transmission. Greg Gregorio with the story.
Kyla and her family have tested positive for COVID-19. They suspect that they got the virus from her husband Gerald, who was exposed to a probable COVID-positive employee at their milk tea shop.
Yung mga kasama niya daw po sa bahay, nilalagnat na po. Tapos po, pumasok pa rin po siya.
Their parents were moderate and critical cases. They had also spread the virus to 4 other family members who lived in a separate house.
Bumisita po sila dito. So lahat din po sila dun sa bahay nila nagkaroon.
Luckily, all of them survived. Even though they got vaccinated after recovering, they are now extra cautious.
Kung dati takot kami, ngayon kasi mas lumala po yung takot po namin. Kung sa milk tea shop po, hanggang ngayon po hindi pa rin po namin siya binubuksan ulit.
The health department earlier warned that COVID-19 transmission is faster now due to the presence of the Delta variant.
Exponential ang kanyang increase. Kasi kung halimbawa, meron ka lang sabihin mo na 5 positive patients doon sa inyong lugar, kapag nakapanghawa siya, you will multiply that already by 5 or 8. No?
The DOH has also recommended that families wear masks even at home. LGUs have also been urged to implement granular lockdowns in areas where cases are up. Despite the reproduction rate in NCR decreasing, the OCTA Research Group reminds the public not to be complacent as trends may be reversed. The group is even proposing to extend the MECQ period for 2 more weeks.
We need to focus the next 2 weeks on expanding hospital capacity. It's not just beds and ventilators, it's really hospital, healthcare workers.
The Philippine Genome Center also said that all regions in the Philippines have detected Delta variant cases, with the BARM recently reporting 2 Delta cases.
Yeah, so we have for the Bangsamoro, they were collected July 24. With the onset date of July 17 for 1 case. And then there's another one from Lanao also.
So far, the Philippines has recorded over 1,700 Delta variant cases. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, We are One News.
In world news, at least 9 died in New York and New Jersey due to record-breaking rains from tropical storm Ida. The storm led to flooding and hazardous conditions on the roads, prompting the states of New York and New Jersey to declare a state of emergency. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio described the flooding and weather on Wednesday night as a historic weather event, with the National Weather Service issuing a flash flood emergency in the city for the first time.
Another big story in sports. In the PBA, the NLEX Road Warriors posted their first win without star keeper Obiena in the 2021 Philippine Cup by fending off the Alaska Aces 84-74. It was a balanced scoring output from NLEX as 4 players scored double digits for their team. The Road Warriors improves to 3-2, while Alaska fell to 2-4 in the standings. In the second and final game of the night, the Phoenix Super LPG overcame a 17-point deficit to defeat the Rain or Shine Elasto Painters 78-77. Matthew Wright sank a game-winning turnaround jumper over Gabe Norwood with 2.6 seconds remaining to give his side the lead.
A Pinoy animated short film just took home back-to-back international awards. Zachary Conlu Stella just won Best Composer at the Toronto Indie Shorts in Canada and Best Soundtrack at the Rialto Film Festival in Italy. The 12-minute tale tells a story of a lost girl and a falling star. The girl helps the star return to the night sky, and they discover the power of kindness and friendship in the process. Zachary shares the feat with musical scorer Pauline Villanueva and sound designer
Expect anything.
But their sweet victory didn't come easy. Zachary told News 5 they worked on Tela on and off for 2 years. He had funded the project with his own money.
Passion project eh. So, bakit ko ba kailangan tapusin? Wala namang bayad. Ako wala namang.
Fresh off their win, Zachary's team plans to create more animated features, but he's hoping that the country would support them as well as other small-time animators.
Sana magtuloy-tuloy. Maraming talent dito in terms of animation, filmmaking. Hindi sila nabibigyan ng attention unless manalo ka ng prestigious awards.
For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
A vaccination site in Bataan is getting attention online for an interesting gimmick. They decided to show films while hundreds were waiting for their turn to get jabbed. But when the movie is about a virus turning people into zombies, then that might just be a questionable choice. Vaccinees at the Bataan's People's Center were made to watch World War Z. The film, as you all know, is about a zombie apocalypse stemming from a virus. Another user joked that the site might as well screen Contagion, a movie about a global pandemic. Another one, meanwhile, said World War Z is actually appropriate. One commenter said the film could actually work as an instructional video. The takeaway, get vaccinated ASAP, not because you'll turn into a zombie, but because it will help to protect you and your loved ones from COVID-19. Ang dami-dami natin problema, dumagdag ka pa.
Whatever works.
Ha?
Baka mag-work sa mga bata yun.
Parang nag-work. Kahit yung nakapanood, tatakbo na lang. Diba?
Okay yung ganun sa ivermectin.
Yan, sige, yun na lang. Takutin na lang natin mata sa ivermectin. Pwede pa yung magiging kabayo yung mga tao.
Well, the bottom line is, again, please get vaccinated. That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News. Have a good evening.